Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So over the past couple of days we got some new and exciting spoilers for BT06 Double Diamond, so let's just get into it. First up, starting with some of the more older spoilers, we have Gankoomon. So Genkumon is looking to be a really powerful level 6 for Black, and he has your stereotypical stats. He evos for 4, has 12,000 DP, nothing special there. But what is special about the card is the fact that he has a really powerful when digivolving ability, where you get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So if they are tied with the lowest play cost, then all of them will be deleted. And this is just really powerful because Black really hasn't had that efficient of removal. So the fact that they have a really good removal card is definitely really nice to see. Because let's just say the opponent has only one Digimon on the field, then this just straight up digivolves and deletes it regardless of how expensive its play cost was. So this card is just looking to be already really powerful for Black just because of that first ability alone. And then on top of that, he even has another ability where during your turn, while your opponent has an unsuspended Digimon, this Digimon gains Security Attack +1. So the fact that this card can even still gain Security Attack +1 is still really nice just because it allows him to apply lots of pressure onto the opponent just because they might have to hard play something and then he's going to have Security Attack +1 for basically them hard playing something because it's going to be in an unsuspended state. Or if you have a whole bunch of blockers, then you're de-incentivizing the opponent from attacking, thus keeping their Digimon in a unsuspended state and still gaining the Security Attack +1. So I definitely really like what Gankoomon is doing, and I definitely think he is a huge game changer for Black as a whole. Next, we have Pulsmon. So Pulsmon is a yellow level 3 Digimon, stats nothing too special there, but what is really good about the card is he has a very powerful on-play ability where you get to trash the top card of your security until you have 3 security, and then you get to gain 1 memory for every security trashed. A lot of what yellow synergy is about is just being at that 3 security threshold, and this card just easily puts you at that 3 security threshold to turn a lot of your potential abilities online. So that's really powerful already, but the fact that he's also gaining you memory for doing that is also very powerful considering yellow has a whole bunch of ways to cheat their stuff into play. So if you cheat Pulsemon into play with, let's just say, 5 security, then you're netting 2 memory because he's going to delete 2 so you could be at 3 and then gain you the 2 memory for the 2 you deleted. So just the first part of his ability is already really good, but the fact that he's also gaining you the memory for doing that is just icing on the cake and definitely making him a very powerful card to be playing around with. Just because he has a whole bunch of synergy with a whole bunch of different Digimon in the game, that just having a way to easily put yourself at 3 is just really good. Is he the best card ever? No, but he's still a really decent card to be thinking about playing, all depending on the type of deck you're going to be running. And then on top of that, he even has a really good inheritable ability where during your turn, while you have exactly 3 cards in your security, this Digimon gains jamming. So I'm not really a huge fan of the fact that this card has a really good on-play ability and a decent inheritable. So yellow just already has a problem where it's just a color that's doing too much. It has a whole bunch of moving parts and pieces that all don't really seem super powerful alone, but built up into a deck, it could be very powerful, and them having access to a consistent way to have jamming is definitely something the color really didn't need, just because the color was already doing so much more than every other color in the game, which is why we're seeing a whole bunch of standout results of just so many people topping with yellow and doing very well with yellow. Even before in the other formats, yellow was still just slowly gaining in power and popularity, while all of the other colors just really weren't, just because they kept adding new and new tools to the color of yellow, and now they have access to jamming on top of everything they had before, and everything they're going to be getting in the set. So I definitely feel like while the jamming isn't super great because you have to be at exactly 3 security in order to get the jamming, it's just the principle of the matter that they're giving yellow even more tools when they didn't need to give yellow more tools. But outside of that, the fact that yellow is getting jamming is still very powerful for the color, depending on what you play and how you play it, and it could really open up to a whole bunch of different scenarios that can make your cards that much more powerful. Next up, we have Mojimon. So Mojimon is looking to be a pretty decent blue Digimon. He is a blue level 4, stats doing nothing too special, just 2 to evolve up 5000 DP, but he has 2 really decent abilities. So his first ability is during your turn, when an opponent's Digimon has no Digivolution sources in it, then this Digimon gains jamming. So this is just another way that Blue could have access to a early game jammer, which is pretty decent, even though it's not on a rookie body. Just having an early game jammer, regardless, is still really, really good, just because it could flesh out the different options that you could pick from. So it's definitely nice to see that there. And then on top of which, he has a really decent inheritable skill, where when attacking, you get to discard 1 evolution source from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. So he's basically just doing everything that Blue kind of wants to be doing in terms of attacking the evolution source, because that way you're rewarded for them not having any Digivolution sources with him just naturally getting jamming. And then on top of that, he's also going to be helping get rid of the opponent's evolution sources using him as an inheritable source. So I definitely really like what this card is doing, and I definitely think this card is pretty decent. Whether he'll see play or not is to be determined, but I definitely like the direction of the card. Next up, we have a new version of Shoutmon, so it's definitely nice to see that they are supporting some older decks with the new sets, so Shoutmon is obviously going to be looking to be a really good card to utilize in the Shoutmon DX deck, but regardless, just having a new Shoutmon is very nice to see, because he has this really good inheritable skill of when attacking, if this Digimon has Advance, then you get to draw 1 card. So Red isn't necessarily known for having the best card draw, so having them have a good inheritable source to help them fix that card draw issue definitely is really, really nice to see. Next up, we have Mamemon. So Mamemon has a new ability, and the ability that he has that's new is called Decoy. So it looks like Decoy is a new ability where when your opponent's card effect would destroy another one of your Digimon, then you could delete this Digimon instead to prevent it. So this is a pretty decent ability to have just because it's acting as some really solid protection. Yes, the caveat is he does have Decoy Black, so he only works with black Digimon, but if you're just running a black deck, then it's not like that really matters. But regardless, it's definitely a really interesting new ability that we have access to, just because removal has been so prominent in the game that we really needed a way to help combat it, and the only way we had to help combat it before was to just out-aggro the control and out-aggro the removal, so that way the removal isn't as devastating. But the fact that we have a card that just helps us deal with removal is definitely really, really nice, especially since he has a really decent when destroyed ability, where you get to choose one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 7 or lower and destroy it. So not only is he trying to prevent removal, but he also has built-in removal himself on a decent when destroyed ability, so that way you get some sort of payout for utilizing his decoy ability. Next up, we have Arbor Mon. So Arbor Mon is looking to be a pretty decent Digimon, just because, for all intents and purposes, he is the green equivalent of a Gankoomon. So he has this really powerful ability where you could treat your green tamers as level 3 Digimon, so that way you could use those green tamers to digivolve up into Arbor Mon. So this is really decent just because it's another way of interacting with your tamers, and if you have any dead tamers on the field, this is a really solid way of utilizing your dead tamers, and it also could help push a little bit of aggression, just because you could have a tamer just sitting on the field, and then digivolve up into Arbor Mon, and then swing right away, as long as you didn't just play your tamer. So he's definitely looking to be a pretty interesting card, considering Green has tried playing around with Tamers a little bit, but nothing too successful. But who knows, maybe with Arbor Mon there might be some more Green Tamers coming in the set, and maybe those Green Tamers could be decent for whatever this card is planning to be doing. Next up, we have Babamon. So Babamon is looking to be a pretty decent Digimon because she has interactions with both yellow and green. So her being yellow just automatically means that she has some very powerful yellow cards that you could be utilizing with her. So that's already just pretty strong, but the interesting fact that you could also play her in a green deck is still really good because she has a good when destroyed ability where you get to play 1 Rosemon or up to 2 yellow level 3 Digimon from your hand for free. So she is another Mega that's basically replacing herself with a Mega, and there's a whole bunch of different Rosemons in the game that we currently have access to make use of this ability in some really interesting and powerful ways. So that's just already pretty decent to be thinking about there, but depending on the deck, you also could think about just trying to utilize her ability to line up 2 level 3 yellow Digimon to play off of her, just because yellow already has a whole bunch of very powerful and very impactful level 3 Digimon. So you could use her in a whole bunch of different ways, and the fact that she is a Mega with a when destroyed ability means that you could be a little bit more aggressive with the card, so that way you could just try to swing and then get her when destroyed ability off, and it's not like it's going to be super hard just because she has relatively low DP compared to a lot of other level 6s in the game. But the fact that she's just doing a whole bunch, it just makes her a really interesting card to be playing around with, just because she has a whole bunch of potential with a whole bunch of different cards, all depending on the type of deck you're going to be building with her. Next up, we have Skull Greymon. So Skull Greymon is making his debut in purple, and he's definitely looking like he's going to be a really decent purple card to be playing around with. So what the card is doing is his first big ability that he has is when this card is discarded from your hand by your own card effect, then you may put this card onto the bottom of one of your purple Digimon's evolution sources. So this is already pretty good just because purple has a whole bunch of ways of self-discarding, so that way you could just utilize this card to discard him, and then instead of putting him into the trash, you basically get to put him underneath one of your Digimon, and that's really decent considering he has the really powerful inheritable skill of retaliation, so you could line up some really devastating plays to get surprise retaliation to try to help deal with a lot of the opponent's potential threats. And then on top of which, he also has a really nice when attacking ability where you get to discard one card from your hand to give this Digimon plus 3000 DP. So his self-baked in synergy is obviously you're supposed to utilize him to swing, then discard another Skull Greymon to put Skull Greymon underneath this one, so that way he's attacking with 10k and retaliation. So that's kind of like the baked in synergy, but again, just his 3 effects are all very, very powerful depending on how you want to build and play the deck around them. Because purple can do a whole lot with a lot of their Digimon depending on what the field looks like. So you could utilize this card to just put it underneath, let's just say, a Tapermon, and then now that Tapermon just surprisingly has retaliation for you doing almost no effort at all. And then on top of which, his ability just adding cards underneath your Digimon as inheritable sources also interacts with the Digiburst ability, so that way you could just increase your inheritable sources for Digiburst to go off, and it's a good counterplay to blue for attacking your evolution sources, so that way you have an easy way of gaining an evolution source to turn off their abilities. So I definitely really like what this card is doing, and I definitely think this is going to be a pretty decent purple card to be playing going forward. Next up, we have Grave Memory Boost. So Grave Memory Boost is, well, another memory boosting option card. So what this card is doing is it has 2 decent main abilities, where its first main ability is you get to return 1 purple Digimon from your trash to your hand, and then put this card into your battle area, and then while it's in your battle area, it has the main ability of Delay, where you could discard this card from your battle area to activate the following effect, which you can use to just gain 2 memory out of nowhere. So this is still a really decent card just because it's essentially allowing you to have access to cards in your trash, which again, that's kind of like the whole theme of purple, is just being able to utilize their trash in various different ways, and being able to grab a Digimon back is still pretty decent, on top of which you could set up the delay ability to gain +2 memory to do some really devastating power plays, especially since they already have access to purple memory boost, which is just digging for cards off the top of your deck. So now that you have another memory boost option, you could pick and choose which one you feel like you want to utilize based on the type of deck that you're playing. But it also has a really decent security ability of adding this card to the battle area, so that way you could figure out when you want to utilize its delay ability. So overall, I definitely think this is a pretty decent purple option card, because you get to pick and choose how you want to build and play your purple deck, and you're not specifically locked to just one memory boost card. And then the last card that we got spoiled over the past couple of days is looking to be TK and Kari. So TK and Kari is a duo tamer, so they're going to have a very similar trend to what all of the other duo tamers were doing in BT05, except this time it's in yellow. So what this card is doing is it has a really decent ability where at the start of your turn, if you have less security than your opponent, then you get to gain +2 memory. So this is really playing into the aspect to where yellow just wants to be consistently at low security, so that way it could turn a lot of its abilities online, and this card is just allowing you to just gain 2 memory for being at lower security than your opponent, which you could easily set up considering yellow has a whole bunch of cards to help reduce its own security. But depending on the type of deck that you're running, that could be really easy, or that could be really hard after a certain point to maintain lower security than the opponent. But regardless, just the fact that it's still gaining +2 memory for just having less security than the opponent is still really good for a lot of yellow decks. And then on top of that, it also has another ability where during your turn, when one of your yellow Digimon attacks, you can suspend this tamer to give one of your opponent's Digimon minus 1000 DP for the turn. So this is just another pretty generically decent yellow ability, just because yellow has already some really decent removal, and this just makes a lot of your removal that much more efficient by adding an extra instance of minus 1000, because a lot of yellow's removal is just at minusing the opponent's DP. And then, like all of the other tamers, it has the security ability where you just get to play it for free. So I really think this is a pretty interesting card to be playing around with. Yellow already has a whole bunch of really powerful and really impactful tamers that they have access to, and this is just another one to add to the pile. So it's definitely looking like BT06 Double Diamond is looking to be a pretty interesting set, and it's definitely going to be doing a lot and adding a lot of new elements into the game, and I'm really excited to see where the game grows and evolves from here, because I do really like the direction that they're trying to take the game and adding in a lot of these new and exciting elements to really spice up and vary the gameplay. It's just that they do need to utilize their ban and restricted list a little bit more to do some balance adjusting with the current state of things, but that's a different story for a different time. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.